I'm ready to slash and burn.
Jason and I were really good buddies from college, and
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And it's a joint podcast venture today because I have Luke from Behind the Bots on the show with me, all getting ready for Norwalk this weekend. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Christine. I am so happy to be on the show. I love the show. I think your interviews are fantastic, and I'm super honored that I am your first, I guess, non-builder to be on the show.
Technically, because I have had a couple of fans on the show who are also kind of low-key builders, so that's kind of fun too. But yeah, I'm excited to have you so that we can talk about your show and talk about Norwalk.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
So I am curious, as maybe fans who, are newer to any of the podcasts and don't really know the history, to talk about like how you got your show started in the first place and kind of how it's evolved over the past few years. Because I mean, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's see. The show is called Behind the Bots. And we're an audio only podcast right now. At some point we may launch a video version, like Norwalk really wants us to launch a video version at some point. But for the last 3.5 years, it's been audio only. We're an interview show. So like we kind of do a long form interview every week with a builder or an event organizer, mostly from Battlebots. And we do like a little bit of news, like at the top. We'll do like kind of a fun robot kind of story at the end. And then we talk a lot about the local events. So we're really interested in B2 events across North America and just builders in all weight classes, mostly Battlebots, but also events like Norwalk and elsewhere. How did we get started? So back in season 3 of Battlebots, my brother-in-law Chris and my sister-in-law Lindsay. So it's always so confusing like how this works. So like I'm dating Jackie and Jackie is Chris's sister. So like Chris is my brother-in-law, and then he met Lindsay, really lovely, and she is my sister-in-law. They just got married actually like last month. So they're now married. So my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, they kept encouraging me like, oh, you gotta watch Battlebots, it's incredible, right? And I'd never seen Battlebots like ever. So it was like season 3 of the reboot. And they were telling me like, oh my gosh, it's like the best season ever. You gotta like catch it and everything, right? And I was like putting it off. And finally they were over like for dinner, like one Thursday night. And they were like, Battlebots starts right now. We're gonna watch like the episode, right? And so I watched like the second to the last episode. And within like 10 minutes, I was like, this is the most incredible TV show I've ever seen in my life. Like, I can't believe that we're fighting these massive robots like on TV. And like, this is happening right now. Like, that's so cool. And then I was able to catch like the finale of season 3, and it was just amazing, like, incredible. And I was just like, this is so cool. Like, I love Battlebots. Like, I want to know like so much more. And like kind of simultaneously, we have been throwing around an idea of like, oh, we should start a podcast, right? Because we're like kind of opinionated talkers and throwing out all these different ideas. And I don't know whose idea it was, but someone was like, oh, we should do like a Battlebots podcast. Like that sounds like kind of fun. And at the time, there were like maybe 3 other Battlebots podcasts, and they were all really excellent. Probably like the best one at the time was the Bot Kids. So if you go back and you listen to the Bot Kids, it's incredible. It was Matt Spurt's 2 sons.
Oh.
And so like they would interview builders, and they had like dad jokes, and it was just so absolutely charming, and it was great. And we were like, oh, I wonder, like, I don't know, I wonder if there's like space for another show, because like the Bot Kids are so great. Like, we were listening to them all the time. And I was like, okay, like let me like do a little bit of research and see if there's like even a kind of a kernel of a show here. So I started going through the season 3 roster and like alphabetically and like A's, and I hit the B's, and like by the time I hit Bronco, I looked up like Xander Rose, the captain of Bronco, and I saw, oh, he's the executive director of the Long Now Foundation. And I just read this magazine article about the Long Now Foundation, which is just fascinating. They're building this 10,000 year clock, like buried deep in a mountain owned by Jeff Bezos. And I was like, wow, oh, Xander Rose, like he runs this project. That's really cool. I was like, if anything, like if we could just interview him and talk about the clock, that would make a super interesting podcast. We should do it, right? And so we just launched the podcast, and we've been interviewing builders ever since. And like the 10,000 year clock is like a really, really, really super interesting story. And you would not believe how many Battlebots builders are like working on the clock like right now. It's like pretty incredible. Have you heard about the clock? Have they told you about it?
I have not. I am not familiar with it.
Okay, all right. This is like my favorite Battlebot story. Okay, all right. Let me pitch this to you. Okay. Let me see. Who is it? Zoe Stevenson, Yasha Little from Chomp, Xander Rose, obviously from Bronco, Matt Vasquez from Whiplash, and Pete Abramson, the Bot Whisperer. The 5 of them. And I don't think there's anyone. I think it's just the 5 of them. They all work at this super secret engineering firm in LA, and they picked up the contract for the 10,000 year clock. And the 10,000 year clock is this like massive, like multi-story, like mechanical clock that's buried deep in this mountain in Texas. And the idea is that it can run mechanically, like without any kind of external power for at least 10,000 years. And the idea is like, maybe in the next couple thousand years, like humanity is going to wipe itself out, like through nuclear war or something horrific, right? We're going to bomb ourselves back to like the Bronze Age, basically. And maybe over the course of like thousands of years, somebody discovers the clock in the mountain. And like, this is some kind of monument to like the past humans who lived. And they go down into this mountain, and they have instructions on how to work on the clock with Bronze Age kind of type tools. And once a year, it makes a sound. And then once every 10 years, it plays a song or something like that. Or once every 100 years, it's like, I don't know, something special happens. And it's like part art piece, part like kind of human monument, part engineering marvel, obviously, part like kind of statement about religion, you know, like the idea is maybe people 9,000 years in the future will like worship this clock, you know. And it's really interesting. I was talking to Pete, the Bot Whisperer, earlier today, and he was like, yeah, in December, we're like installing the clock. We're doing like kind of this super major work. So like stuff's happening in the next couple months. And so many Battlebots builders and engineers are like touching the project, which is just so cool. Yeah. So that's what got us into the show, you know?
That is a really cool story. I mean, like overall, and it's interesting because it just kind of shows how people can take very different paths and reach a similar destination, because, you know, you had only just started watching BattleBots a few years ago, and I've watched it forever, you know, for 20 years. You know, my earliest memories were of Lisa Winter as a 10-year-old girl fighting robots, and that was really what got me into it in the first place. But, you know, I was just a casual fan, you know, just watching it, and I thought, oh, this is cool. And it really wasn't until, you know, I had a child of my own and she took interest in it, and then like combined with, you know, thinking, oh, it would be cool if I, you know, could do something more for the community, and came up with this idea to do a podcast. So it's interesting how that kind of comes into fruition.
Yeah, and I know, but I'd love to hear more about your show too. Like, just honestly, like I'd love to hear the story. Like, I know that it's launched like a couple months ago. You've interviewed everybody, right? Like
a lot of people, them, probably about a third of the builders. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a builder that you're hoping to interview that you haven't interviewed yet?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, well, like not everybody, but I make no bones about the fact that I absolutely love Minotaur. I have loved Minotaur ever since they have existed in Battlebots. So if that ever happens, I might have difficult forming words during that interview.
Yeah, yeah. Marco's great. We were able to interview him, I think during COVID, and he came to Norwalk earlier this year and did fantastic. His robots, I think he qualified 2 robots for the December championship, and his team just was incredible. Yeah, he's amazing. Like you're gonna love that interview. He's funny and just, I don't know, like really just fascinating. Like the Brazilian combat robotics scene is like kind of just, it's so mysterious, but it's huge. It's so much larger than here in the US. Like I have wanted to go to the Iron Cup, which is like their big competition, for years now. It's massive. They have like 400 teams that show up for the Iron Cup. And it's like every single type of robotics like competition you can think of, like robotic soccer, combat robotics, big robots, small robots, the whole thing. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a little bit about it because I know that Evan Arias from now Shred It Bro is the bot of choice for him. So he's planning on going to Brazil to do some of that stuff down there. So it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, hopefully Evan and I can go together. That'd be great.
Hey, that sounds like a good trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so speaking of Norwalk, there is an event this weekend, which is pretty exciting. Just to give you my background with Norwalk, I didn't know anything about it really until the last live event, and I just happened to see something about it, and I really had nothing else to do that day, and so I was like, I'm going to turn it on because I'm kind of jonesing for some robot fighting action. And I watched it and I was like, what? It was so exciting. And like some of the robots there, I completely fell in love with, the same way that I have with some of the robots, the big ones in Battlebots. I mean, Jameson Go's robot Psycho, I love that thing so much.
Yeah, he took it all the way to the end. So Psycho is like a new 12-pounder. He took it all the way to the end. He ended up facing Marco in the finals, and he like called his shot. He was like, I'm going to beat Marco the first time. He ended up doing that, and he came so close to winning the second time, but Marco ended up winning like the 12-pounder 12-pound division 2 months ago. But yeah, it's really fun. It's like Norwalk is a really interesting story. Like, do you know much about the background of Norwalk?
I don't, and I would love to hear about it.
It's fascinating. So like, okay, let's see. So some of these facts, like I have in my head canon because I think somebody told me one time. So listen, 95% of this is probably accurate. I'm hoping for more than that, but this is how I understand it happened. So there was a very successful startup called Datto / it still exists here in Norwalk, Connecticut. And the founder of Datto is Austin McCord. And Austin started the company like right after college, started out of his dorm room. He grew into this massive company, like hundreds of employees. And a couple of years ago, 2015, 2016, he ended up selling like a majority interest in the company for several $1 billion. And so he's either mega millionaire or billionaire, I'm not sure, but very, very wealthy. And he was good friends with Leanne Cushing from Valkyrie. And so one season, his company Datto sponsored Valkyrie. And they were hanging out, and Leanne was like, oh, hey, you should come to like a local competition. Come with me to Mass Destruction, which is in Boston. So they went to the competition. Austin built a combat robot for that. And he came away from the competition. He was like, this is super cool. I love that people are building small robots and like kids can build them, and like you can build them in your garage. Like It's very accessible. It's only costs a couple $100 to build a combat robot, but like the actual event logistics were just a total mess. Like it's all volunteers. It wasn't live streamed. Like it was just like chaos, right? Because, you know, people don't do it for money. Like, you know, event organizers put this on and lose money every single time they do a local event. And so Austin was like, I can solve this problem. And so he built a combat robot box in one of his like workshops here in Norwalk. And like, it was around the time that I heard about Norwalk, because like I live maybe an hour and a half away from Norwalk. And Chris and Lindsay and I went to Norwalk, and like in the beginning, it was like one little beat weight cage. Everyone stood around the cage. Like there was no like bleachers or anything like that. And there was no separation at all between you and the builders. Like the builders were fixing their robots right there. You could walk through the pits, and like I think there's 12 or 15 robots there, like in their kind of early competitions. And he just kept doing them. And like every other month there was a Norwalk, and every other month like it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he was looking for announcers. Like he announced the first couple of them, and like you can kind of go back and watch them. And he's like, this is not my core competency. I'm not very good at this. I need like really good kind of competent announcers. So he's just like cycling through them. Like he was hiring and just firing announcers left and right. And a year and a half ago, 2 years, a year and a half ago, we got connected to Austin, and we're like, oh yeah, we'll give it a shot. Like, I mean, we've never done anything like this before. We've never done play-by-play announcing. We've never done like color commentary, you know, but we know a lot of the builders and we love the sport so much. Like, yeah, we'll try it. And it's just been like a really great just marriage, you know, like he was really happy with our commentary. It's our favorite thing that we do. And we've now called every single fight at the new building. Like we ended up moving to this brand new facility. I was hoping I was going to be able to do this on my laptop. So I was going to like carry the laptop around and show it to you, because the facility's incredible. But yeah, we've now called easily thousands of fights here at Norwalk Havoc over the last year and a half. Our event tomorrow, if you can catch it, is going to be huge. It's our biggest event ever. We have 118 robots that are going to be fighting tomorrow in like 230 plus fights. And it's going to be probably like a 12 to 15 hour live stream probably tomorrow. We have lots of Battlebots builders who've flown in from all over the country. We have builders from Mexico, from the UK, from Canada, who are traveling out to fight. And we have some like really amazing, really cool bots that are going to be here tomorrow from Battlebots builders on the West Coast as well. And now it's just become this massive thing. Like every single one that we do is bigger than the last one. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been really great.
That's awesome. And I definitely will be watching as much of it tomorrow as I possibly can, because the last time was just terrific. You know, and you have folks like, obviously, Ricky Willems is very involved with it. And I mean, I just think he's terrific. I love when he gets on and does the commentary as well. So
a really kind of fun, twisted sense of humor, which is really great. Yeah, it's kind of fun. So like it's the four of us in the podcast and Ricky. So it's like the five of us, we work together as like kind of the broadcasting team. And Ricky is like, he just has like a little twinkle in his eye. Like he's kind of down for anything. Like at some, like, I don't know, a couple, maybe 6 months ago, people in the live chat on YouTube started like asking us to do weird things for money. So like, they were like, oh, you should thumb wrestle one another for like, I'll send you like $10 and you guys should thumb wrestle like on the stream, right? And so we started thumb wrestling, and Ricky's just like gotten really into thumb wrestling. And he has, Christine, I'm not kidding you, he has the strongest hands I've ever seen in my life. Like he plays bass, he works on cars. I have little like delicate rider hands, and he has these like just mechanic, just bear claws, you know? He's crushed me now multiple times. And was it in last competition? No, it was back in May. They did like a hot sauce drinking competition. I don't know. It's weird. I have no idea what the crowd is going to ask for tomorrow on the stream. I really hope it's not thumb wrestling, because it just crushes my spirit, you know, like I lose so often, you know. But I don't know, maybe it'll be hot sauce, maybe it'll be something else. We're trying to think of like ways to fill time at the end of the competition, because there's only like 4 bots left and 20 minutes of repair time between fights, and like got to fill 20 minutes of air time. So like we just start doing weird stuff, you know.
That's some good ideas, because honestly, like, for me, so I have a pretty wide range of interests, and another thing that I watch that is very similar to Norwalk in some ways is you may not be familiar with it, but it's called Games Done Quick. It's a giant video game tournament where basically it's a fundraiser / it's just people playing video games, and there's different little fundraiser bits in there that it says, okay, if somebody does this, then this person will pledge so many dollars. Like, you really should watch one of the streams, because they have it saved on YouTube, but there's a lot of good ideas in there that I think could be incorporated into Norwalk. They even had a Disney sing-off at one point where like people had to compete sing. So like a lot of fun stuff to potentially do there.
I mean, Ricky is very talented. He's a multi-talented individual, but I think I could crush him in a Disney sing-off. Like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. We were thinking maybe tomorrow we would do sock puppets after midnight, where we just like have the little sock puppet and like a really tight shot of just 2 commentator sock puppets, like kind of talking to one another. It's, we're kind of, we're whiteboarding it right now, I don't know. It's usually very organic. Like, I probably should like think of like little games that we should play, but I don't know. I'm worried that it's like kind of escalating. Like, maybe we might get into like just facial slapping, or, arm wrestling. I'm very weak, so like I would definitely lose every time in the arm wrestling. We did trivia one time. That was pretty popular. But yeah, anyway, it's come for the 230 robot fights in a row, and maybe watch me get humiliated on a YouTube live stream. That's, what more could you ask for?
There's that too. A fan had a really good idea. Well, a couple of fans had latched onto this idea that might be fun, is to get photos of robots like being destroyed or flying through the air, and cutting out like the robot that's doing it, and you have to guess which robot caused that destruction.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I've been pitching this idea, like, are you smarter than a Kyle? Because Kyle Kroos, our Behind the Bots co-host and play-by-play announcer here, he is a absolute BattleBots like encyclopedia. He knows way more than like the 3 of us put together. And there are just super fans of BattleBots who also come to Norwalk and just sit in the stands. And I'm sure that they would love to kind of take him on and try to best the Kyle,
That could be a lot of fun. I do not pretend to know everything. I expand my knowledge every day and with every interview that I do. So we will see.
Yeah, your questions have been great. Like, you know a ton. Like, I think you could take Kyle on, honestly. Yeah.
We'll see. I do my homework. Let's just say that. I definitely do. So yeah. But this event sounds super exciting. I know the cool thing about Norwalk is that there's some type of event every couple of months. So it's not, not like traditionally how BattleBots has been, where it's like, here's an event, and then you have to wait months and months and months before anything happens again.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple of big differences. Like, one is we don't have a registration cap, at least currently. So if you have an idea for a 3-pound robot, a 12-pound robot, or a 30-pound robot, you can build it and you can bring it here. And as long as it passes safety, you can fight it. So like we have actually a pretty generous rule set as well. Like, we see some pretty wild robots that come through the door, And we see like, we did the math, I think like 50% of all Battlebots captains have already competed at Norwalk. And for a lot of them, they are testing out concepts that they're going to scale up into their 250 pounder. So like Jameson Go is a great example. He's been running Megatron up and down the East Coast for years, like even before Norwalk was a thing. Like he would fight at Motorama and kind of just anywhere else where he could fight a 30 pounder. And it is a perfect little scale model replica of Sawblaze. And so he's testing all of these little things at 30 pounds that if they work, they go up to the 250 pounder, and actually goes both ways. Like he's equally serious about both the 30 pounder and the 250 pounder. And I am under NDA, so I can't say too much, but a lot of very popular Norwalk bots from the last year have been scaled up for this coming season of Battlebots. So if you're a fan of Norwalk, you're going to see some bots that you've seen at 3 pounds, 12 pounds, or 30 pounds before here. And they just kind of cut their teeth on Norwalk, came and fought probably 4 or 5 times, got a ton of stick time in. And the really cool thing is like the physics of a 30 pounder are pretty similar to the physics of a heavyweight. So you can build a scale model of the robot that you want to get into Battlebots, come and fight here a ton and see if you can win a golden dumpster. So very cool. Yeah, it's fun. It's like a kind of proving ground, I would say, you know?
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking, because I know that Greg Munson recently talked about that on your show, and that's an idea that I really love, because I've talked to a couple of folks that either have built robots or, have been trying to get into Battlebots or things like that and haven't been able to do so. And, I would like to see those folks get a real chance to, show what they can do other than just an audition video, like actually fight their robot against somebody and, prove that they deserve to be in the bigger field.
Yeah, I have like kind of 2 thoughts. So like one is like rising tide lifts all boats, right? So if you have a venue like Norwalk, especially if you're on the East Coast, right? Like it's difficult to go out to Robo Games. Robo Games is only once a year. Same thing with Motorama. It's like a 2-day event. That's it. But if you can come out to Battlebots and you can build a 30 pounder and it does really, really well, and you can like beat a bunch of top tier robots in the field, actually win a dumpster, like you actually have a really good shot at getting onto Battlebots. I think like one of the challenges with Battlebots has just been that a heavyweight is so dangerous that there are a lot of rookies that just build it in their garage and they do these very limited tests. They try and test it as safely as possible, but there's a lot of heavyweights that roll into Battlebots traditionally that have maybe 10 minutes of test time, and they're really getting all of their testing done like on site. And a place like Norwalk is great because now you can fight for a year or 2 years, really just kind of build up a name, build up a brand, like build up a following, get fans, and then like kind of build a heavyweight if that's what your path is. I will say too, like one of the coolest things is that we are starting to see people who only want to win at Norwalk. Like they don't have interest in getting up to like heavyweights. For them, like Norwalk is just really a lot more accessible. If you live within 2 hours of here and you can fight 7 times a year, like, and you don't have to take time off of work, you don't have to go into debt. Like I can build a robot for $5,000. I can come here, I can fight world-class Battlebots builders, like share the pits with like the best builders on the planet, have incredible fights, like go up on a really cool live stream. It is really kind of making its own thing. Like it's really becoming its own thing. And it's so valuable because like you can fight a 30 pounder like 5 times in a day. Like it takes a heavyweight like 5 people in 24 hours to kind of turn it around. So like we can fight a ton. And it's just really cool. I don't know, we're building our own community. So like if you're a builder and you haven't been to Norwalk, like it's incredible. It's a really, really amazing experience.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's an amazing experience for fans too. I mean, have you seen like photos of the Bot Museum?
Yeah, I think I have seen some photos of it.
I'll give you an exclusive, okay? We have added 3, 4 new robots this month to the Bot Museum. So fans tomorrow, when they come in, they're gonna be surprised. They don't know this. We've added Duck. We have added Bloodsport. We've added Tantrum, and we've added Slapbox. So I think we're up to a dozen, maybe more than a dozen. We've got Mammoth, Ribot, we've got Sharkobrian, we've got War Easy, we've got Ribot. Did I already say Ribot? No. We have Smee. So what is that? Yeah, it's almost a dozen. And we've got a couple more Battlebots that are going to be coming later this year. So yeah, I mean, if you've ever wanted to see a heavyweight in person, we've got them up in like kind of museum displays, and yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, it's a good time. You should check it out. When are we going to get you out? You know?
That's going to be a next year trip.
Cool.
That'll definitely happen next year. Like there was for a while where I was like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to Vegas this year, and so if I don't do that, maybe I'll go to Norwalk. But then I was like, no, we're going to Vegas.
I mean, like on the one hand, you have an amazing, just like entertainment capital of the world with like the best cuisine on the planet. You know, you've got just dozens of shows every night. You've got just great hotels, like just an amazing party scene. And, you know, on the other hand, you have Vegas. So, you know.
Good to know. Yeah. So that is all exciting. And speaking of Vegas, let's dish on the new upcoming season a little bit, because obviously I think it's fair to say that both you and I probably know some things that most people don't know that we can't talk about. But let's talk about what we can talk about.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the stuff that's obviously come out at this point is, you know, first of all, tickets going on sale, which is awesome. I have mine, so if people out there don't have your tickets, make sure you get them, because I am telling you right now, it is going to be an absolutely epic season. I just have a feeling.
This is a pitch for VIP tickets. VIP tickets, totally worth it. I bought VIP tickets last year. They were great. Yeah. So if you can swing for it, VIP is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, that is out there. And then also, you know, a lot of the rule changes have actually come out, which I think is going to be really great. Because as a fan, I know myself last year, I was very frustrated with a lot of the controlled movement issues or unstick issues or things like that. And now those aren't going to be issues anymore, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about season 7. There's just really big changes that are happening. So we had Greg Munson on Behind the Bots this week, and he broke a ton of news. Greg actually surprised me with a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. So like the kind of TLDL, I guess, was Battlebots is going to be 54 hours of content this season. That's how much Discovery has ordered. Some of those episodes are going to be 2.5 hours long. So like there's going to be extended analysis and commentary. I'm really curious how that's going to go. Greg was saying that kind of deeper analysis could involve Chris and Kenny bringing on builders to kind of walk through either their own fight or provide commentary on, you know, other fights. Let's see, what else was big? Builder pay and stipends are happening this year. It's been a massive issue for multiple seasons. Like if you see Bunny Sariel and Malice's social media, like last week, she ended up spending like $80,000 plus on Malice last season. And for the last couple of seasons, like builders are spending anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 plus on their team arriving at Battlebots with very little kind of recompense. So builder stipends have been massive. So that's a huge step forward in the right direction. Let's see, I'm trying to think like my major takeaways. The thing that I'm really obsessed with I don't know. Like, no one else seems interested in this. Is like the new live show that Greg was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't this the number one thing that people are talking about? Like, I have so many questions about how they would structure a live show, how like the staff required to do a live show, the logistics of a live show, the cadence of a live show, like how they're going to promote it, how they're going to like build rosters. Like, the live show is just very fascinating, and like, I don't know, like nobody's talking about it on the internet like this week. It's so strange, like I yeah, I don't know. Like I imagine like all of these different kind of scenarios for the live show. It's interesting. So that's really, really big.
Yeah, it's really cool because I mean, I see so
Yeah.
many times that fans will post in the forums and be like, hey, when's their Battlebots happening? Can I go and see it? Well, with a live show, like if somebody's just on the fly, hey, I'm going to Las Vegas in November. Cool, there's a live show. I can go see it. Like that's a really cool thing.
But Christine, like think about like what that means though, like okay, so like all right, I'm gonna just kind of lay out like why I'm so obsessed with this. So like he said the word nightly, like a nightly show on the podcast. I don't think it's going to be nightly when it launches. That's insane. It's so difficult to do. But like, let's say it eventually becomes a nightly show. Is it like medieval times? Like you show up, like you get some combat, but it's not deadly combat because you got to fix the robots forever, like over and over again. Are they going to be like copies of popular robots? Like, is there going to be a Hypershock robot, a Witch Doctor robot, a Tombstone robot, like, is it going to be Andrea Galatelli living in Vegas driving these? You know what I mean? Like, is she going to have a residency or something, or like, is it going to be like dollar store Andrea Galatelli driving like this kind of neutered version of Witch Doctor? Like, they're not going to be going at one another 100%. Like, they can't have explosions, right? I mean, like, they'd just be losing tens of thousands of dollars every single day in like repairs. There's no way they could build like so many Witch Doctors in a row. You know what I mean? Like the just the logistics boggle my mind. Like, and then it's like, okay, so if we don't have the actual builders, like, are we hiring like teams of drivers and builders and technicians? And then like, who's going to announce it? Like, Kristen Kenny's not going to be there. So like, who's going to be there? Like, it's, I don't know. It's like kind of strange. But I don't know, like, if it's like, oh, we do Battlebots every month and you can sign up for whatever month you want to come, and like, we're going to fight real robots. It's going to be a one-day tournament. The winner gets like $5,000, $10,000. That could be amazing and so awesome. Like the actual team showing up and they get to choose when they want to go, how often they want to go. And it's 8 bots every time, and it happens once a month or once a week or whatever. That could be incredible. I don't know. I think it's very interesting, very cool. And I hope that it's successful because it could be massive for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like when you think about it, because, Greg was talking about like the show being on TBS, like after wrestling. And I mean, Battlebots has often been compared to wrestling, and, with wrestling, that's obviously like an ongoing thing. They usually have a couple like televised shows per week and stuff like that. And I mean, that's what I think Battlebots could become. It's just like you said, the logistics of it, because when you're talking about wrestling, you're talking about people that like, yes, may get hurt, but like, you're not going to explode a person. And they like, with a robot though, you could completely destroy that robot. And then it's the logistics of trying to figure out, okay, can you rebuild it? Can you just make a second one? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, it's interesting and strange. It's like when I think of Vegas shows, like, okay, a singer doing a residency, that makes sense to me, right? They do 2 concerts a day. Like a magic show makes sense. Like Cirque du Soleil makes sense. Even like, I don't know, medieval times makes sense. But like, I think of BattleBots as like a serious sport,
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe like, oh, you're going to go to the football stadium, you're going to watch the same 2 teams play every night, and like they're not hurting one another or whatever. It's like, it's strange, it's weird. Like and like, is it gonna be super scripted? Is it gonna be like, oh no, Tombstone's coming out? Oh, and it's like, he's got like the whole costume and everything, and he's like, and all the kids are booing, like, oh boo, like, I don't know, like, it's weird. Like, there's got to be some kind of storyline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whatever it is, I'm excited to see it, and then I'll see what that looks like and see how I feel about it.
My imagination is captivated. Like, so many questions, and I'm like, really, yeah, I'm really curious how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most interesting thing that he announced, but the internet disagrees. They're more interested in like the other stuff. Yeah, let's see. The roster is going to get cut down to 50 bots, and each bot is going to have 4 fights in the kind of qualifying rounds, which is huge. Like, that has been such a sticking point for the fans and for the builders for the longest time, and really kind of allowing them to build truly kind of seeded, fully kind of statistically sound, like top 32, which is going to be huge. A lot of new bots coming, like I think almost a dozen new bots. I think that's what he said, and bots from overseas, which is huge. Like, I want to see so many more international teams. Like, I am really, really happy to see, COVID restrictions being eased so that international teams can come back, because it's the lifeblood of the sport.
Yeah, that's definitely been something that's been sorely missed over the past couple of seasons, because I mean, for me, because I think Greg mentioned this too about season 4 of Battlebots, like in 2019, that was my personal favorite season of the new era. There was just so much good stuff happening, and like the tournament was insane. So the closest thing since that has gotten me super excited was the Sin City Slugfest that they just did, which was like some of the best content in a while, and so I'm super jazzed right after that to be going into a new season here.
Yeah, I will say, like, Sin City Slugfest was great. However, my one note is that it's too close to like the main show. Like, you have a spin-off show, you have time on the network. I would love to see something slightly different. Like, I'd like to see a show that maybe tries out some new ideas and takes risks, because it's almost like mini BattleBots. It's like, we have BattleBots, we had season 6, and now this is season 6.5, and now we're going to go to season 7 and then 7.5, and like, I think there's an opportunity for us to do something different than like just the 8 bots fight and 1 bot advances. Like, that's kind of, I think there's other stuff, that we could be doing.
I really like Lisa Winter's idea, like, so much, of, doing some kind of like thing where you have X number of builders and they all have access to the same resources, the same amount of money, and they have to put a brand new robot together within 2 weeks and then fight them. Like, I would love to see the journey of that. I think that would be great.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like, I think like the challenge has traditionally been that BattleBots is worried that the casual fan just is not interested in that. And it's like, like, fans loved Mythbusters. Like, the fans love does this get made? Like, the fans love cooking shows and competition shows where like you show the cooking and you show the making of the knives or whatever it is that you're making and competing with. And like, can we do something like that? Could we do like a Master Chef for robots? And like, that would be really cool. Like, every week, like, oh, these are our 10 builders, and let's talk through like our kind of technical challenges, and let's test stuff, and we're going to do challenges and all of that. Like, I'd love to see something like that. And I think like the challenge is just like the way that they shoot it. Like, they're trying to get a new fight into the box every 20 minutes. So like, they can't, and they're slotting in the Sin City Slugfest fights like through the finale as well. And so like, they just can't really change the format. Like, they can't flood the box with bubbles or whatever, for this one kind of challenge. So we end up with just kind of 2 versions of BattleBots, which is fine. I love BattleBots. Like, give me more BattleBots. Like, give me BattleBots every month, but I think like there's something cooler and deeper that we can do. And yeah, I would love to see them explore that.
Yeah, there's so many different things. I even love the idea of like doing the junior Battlebots, which I mean, like in a way, you know, like there's kids obviously, like Tyler from Perfect Phoenix, who have made, you know, smaller bots, and like I'm sure some, you know, some others compete at Norwalk and stuff like that. But I mean, to do just an event, you know, obviously there's FIRST Robotics, but I think it would be cool if Battlebots themselves did something like that, because it's so important to get these young builders like motivated and, you know, wanting to do this, that I think that would be great.
Yeah, and Greg was saying like a lot of these kind of different formats or different competition types might be perfect for a live circuit, live show, you know, where the stakes are much lower. They can do a sportsman only month, or like it's a kids only month or something like that. I will say, like bringing it back around to Norwalk specifically, we are very interested in these kinds of alternative competitions. Like we want to do like a cardboard robots league. We want to do a kids only like kind of summer camp building league, you know, where kids come in 2 weeks later, they're fighting robots that they've built out of parts that we give them. We want to build series where we take like a famous builder, a really talented builder, pair them with people who just have ideas and see, can you build a robot that, I don't know, their primary weapon is a ketchup bottle that squirts like ketchup at its opponent, you know, or, you know, just like really weird and wacky robots. Like we are really interested in kind of exploring the edges, or kind of like what's next in the sport, and really just kind of making really super engaging YouTube content. I would be really surprised if in a year from now, Norwalk was just like kind of a massive competition like it is today. I think there's going to be a lot of sister content, you know, that brings in all sorts of fans who are interested in robots and fun and stuff, you know.
That is awesome. I am here for it, and I am excited to see what takes place.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Like you're gonna go to Battlebots this year. You should come to Norwalk next year. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, like when you kind of experience both live, you know?
Yeah. Especially like, you know, comparing and contrasting. I think that's always like a good idea, because then you can see like what's really awesome about each one, and maybe what could, you know, be better about each one. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm all about the robot content, no matter where it comes from. So yeah, we'll definitely see what happens.
What about the other competitions? Like, are you going to go to Robot Ruckus and Motorama and Robo Games and stuff?
There are definitely other ones out there, and I would like to check out as many as I can. I think the closest thing to me, where I am at in Indiana, I am in the dead zone, but there is MRCA out here. So that may be a thing that I can check out, but there's not as much of the cool stuff here.
The Midwest is hopping when it comes to combat robots. It really is. Like, I mean, it's not Florida like necessarily, or Southern California, or I don't know, Norwalk, but there are lots of competitions. Like the guys from Deadlift, they put on a competition in the Chicago area. Merca is just putting on competitions left and right. And yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you do have to.
It's just
like
it's
really
not as much, you know. It's either West Coast, East Coast. That's we're right in the middle. So
yeah, I've been to Robot Ruckus. It was incredible. I've been to Motorama now several times. It's incredible. I'm really looking forward to going to Robo Games next year in California. That is going to be really, really fun. We're like, Norwalk is doing some work with Robo Games. How much we're going to be able to like kind of finalize before the event itself, still kind of TBD, but we had David Calkins like come out and see an event and kind of like talk to us about how we could help and stuff. So yeah, I'm really stoked about that. I really want to go to Brazil. I really want to see, you know, some of the big Brazilian competitions. I don't know, like there's just so many amazing competitions out there, like, and they're so much fun to see live. Like even little events like in your neighborhood, like events at a hobby shop, events at like a barcade or whatever that are near you are amazing. If you haven't seen one, like a live event is really incredibly fun. So go and find your local live event. Go to robotcombatevents.com, look for it. And just it's great. It's a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Luke, and so much exciting stuff to come. We will both get to experience Battlebots live in Vegas this year, which is super exciting. And I'm just waiting to see what comes next.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. We have to have you on our show too. Like, I would love to have you sit in and, like, I don't know, help us out with our interviewing skills.
I would be delighted anytime. So for everybody who's watching the show, super excited. Obviously, as everybody knows, I just recently passed 100 subscribers, so please keep subscribing, letting me know what kind of content you want to see, because once filming is done, then there's probably going to be a lot more opportunities for me to do some things. So we'll see what happens next on the show.
Yeah. All right. See ya.